Picture this. You're with a stunning woman. She's witty, magnetic, and every guy in the room notices when she walks in. You're all in, showering her with gifts, planning fancy dates, sending her sweet texts every morning like clockwork. You're doing everything a good man is supposed to do. But here's the twist. The more you pour in, the more she quietly pulls back. Her interest fades. You don't see it happening, but it is. And the reason why will flip everything you thought you knew about women on its head. The harsh truth most men can't stomach is this. For a woman to truly desire you, love you, and stay loyal, she can't ever feel like she's fully secured you. She has to feel like she's reaching for your approval, not resting in the comfort of already having it. And let's clear something up. This isn't about playing games, being cruel, or turning into some manipulative jerk. It's about understanding one thing. Desire dies when there's nothing left to chase. I'm talking about understanding the raw psychological mechanisms that drive female attraction at its deepest core. If you stay with me for the next 15 minutes, I'm going to break down exactly why women lose interest in men who treat them too well. More importantly, I'll show you how to flip that dynamic and create the kind of lasting attraction most men never experience in their lifetime. This might just be the most important video you'll ever watch about female psychology. So listen carefully. Here's the first golden rule. Women are biologically wired to seek men with higher survival value than themselves. This isn't a conscious choice. It's baked into their DNA after millions of years of evolution. In the ancestral world, women who aligned themselves with men who had more strength, more resources, and higher status had a far better chance of surviving and raising strong children. But the women who tied themselves to the nice guy, the one who brought flowers every day but couldn't defend her against rival tribes or feed her during harsh winters, those women disappeared from the gene pool. Their bloodlines ended. Evolution didn't reward kindness. It rewarded strength, value, and the ability to lead. This deep biological programming has a name: hypergamy. And whether people like it or not, it's still hardwired into every woman's subconscious mind. We might live in an age of supermarkets, dating apps, and social safety nets, but her brain is still running on ancient survival software. Here's what that means. The moment a woman senses that your value is equal to, or worse, beneath, her own, her attraction system shuts down. Completely. That's not her being shallow. That's evolution at work. For hundreds of thousands of years, women didn't have the luxury of making casual mistakes. Pregnancy meant 9 months of vulnerability, followed by years of raising children that required enormous resources. A single poor choice in a partner could mean death for her and for her offspring. So nature programmed women with a ruthless filter. Only men who demonstrated superior strength, resources, or status triggered lasting desire. Everyone else rejected. And those instincts didn't vanish with civilization. They're still running quietly in the background of every conversation, every date, every interaction you have with a woman. And when you show up needy, desperate, or bending over backwards to please her, you're signaling one thing: I'm lower value. And in her biology, that translates to unfit. When you act needy or overly accommodating, you're sending signals that, back in our ancestors' time, meant weakness and poor survival prospects. Her subconscious picks up on those signals instantly, and the result is always the same. Her attraction for you starts to fade. This leads us straight into a crucial idea: sexual market value, or SMV. Picture dating as a marketplace. Everyone has a certain value based on their looks, resources, personality, and social status. And here's the harsh truth. Women are only genuinely attracted to men whose SMV they perceive as higher than their own. Now, this is where most guys completely miss the point. They think SMV is about external things, your job title, the car you drive, how much muscle you've packed on, or even your height. Sure, those things play a role, but they're not the real engine behind attraction. A woman's perception of your SMV comes far more from how you carry yourself, how you interact with her, and above all, how much or how little you seem to crave her validation. Let me show you what I mean. I once knew a guy who looked like the complete package. Successful lawyer, sleek BMW, gym-fit physique. On paper, he should have had women chasing him. But here's the reality. He would wine and dine women, lay on the compliments, and drop everything the second one of them called. In other words, he broadcasted neediness. And the more he tried to buy attraction, the faster it slipped through his fingers. Despite having every external marker of high value, the lawyer kept running into the same wall. Women would lose interest after a few weeks. They saw through the act. Now compare him to another guy I knew. This one was a bartender, lived in a tiny studio apartment, didn't have much money at all. But his mindset? Completely different. He had what I call an abundance frame. He'd take women to simple coffee shops, joke around with them, tease them playfully, and never seemed the slightest bit rattled if they didn't text back right away. The result? Women became hooked. They obsessed over him, constantly trying to win his attention. What made the difference? Simple. The bartender understood that perceived value is more powerful than actual value. He carried himself like a man with endless options. Meanwhile, the lawyer's every action screamed, "Please don't leave me." Here's the key. Women are always scanning for subtle social cues about your value compared to other men. They're watching how you handle rejection, how you respond when they test you, and how you carry yourself in a group. These cues tell her more about your true value than your bank balance or your bench press ever will. Here's the second golden rule. The less certain a woman is about your level of interest, the more mental energy she invests in you. This isn't a trick, it's basic human psychology. We value what feels uncertain, and we take for granted what we're sure of. When you show all your cards too early, texting nonstop, making yourself available 24/7, and broadcasting how smitten you are, you kill the tension that fuels attraction. There's no mystery, no challenge, nothing for her to earn. She knows she has you, so she stops thinking about you. But when you create just a little uncertainty, everything changes. Her mind starts spinning with questions. Does he actually like me? Why hasn't he texted me back yet? What's he doing right now? That mental occupation is the soil where attraction grows. Picture this. You meet a woman at a social event. The chemistry is great, the conversation flows, and you exchange numbers. Now, the average guy blows it right here. He texts her the next morning. "Hey, I had such an amazing time talking to you last night." In his mind, he's being thoughtful, but in her mind, she already knows she's got him. Game over. He'll text something like, "You're incredible. When can I see you again?" That's what the average guy does, laying it all out with way too much enthusiasm. But the man who understands the power of concealed interest plays it differently. He waits a few days, then sends a short, direct message. "Coffee, Tuesday at 3. No exclamation points, no love poems, no begging for her time. Just calm, deliberate intent. He shows interest without showing neediness. Here's the psychology behind that move. Human beings are wired to crave intermittent reinforcement. When rewards are consistent and predictable, we adapt to them quickly and lose excitement. But when rewards are unpredictable, when you don't know if or when they're coming, you get hooked. That's how casinos keep people glued to slot machines, and it's exactly how attraction works. Your attention works the same way. If you hand it out constantly and predictably, she adapts to it, and it loses all value. But when your attention comes sparingly, When it has to be earned, it becomes precious. Most men make the fatal mistake of blowing their entire emotional budget in the first week. They drown her in compliments, agree with everything she says, and act like she's the greatest woman they've ever met. What they don't realize is they've just made their currency, validation, worthless. Women are masters at reading your level of investment. You don't need to say, "I love you," for her to know exactly where you stand. She can feel it in the way you instantly reply to her texts, the way your face lights up when she enters the room, or how you rearrange your entire schedule just to fit into hers. Here's what you need to get clear on. Women absolutely want to feel special, but only when they've earned it. If you hand that feeling out for free, it loses its weight. But when she has to work for your approval, that's when it becomes valuable. That's when she starts to treasure it. I'll give you a real example. I knew a guy who dated a model. Gorgeous, the kind of woman every man tripped over himself to impress. Most men would shower her with endless compliments about her looks, but not him. He played it smarter. He rarely commented on her beauty because he knew she heard that from everyone. Instead, he gave validation sparingly, praising her wit when she said something sharp, or acknowledging her humor when she genuinely made him laugh. The difference? His approval was tied to her behavior, not just her existence. She had to earn it, and that made his validation infinitely more valuable than the empty flattery she was used to. That's why she chased him harder than she ever chased the guys who gave her everything up front. One of the fastest ways to kill attraction is by becoming predictable. When she knows exactly how you'll respond to every little thing, when your schedule runs like clockwork, when she can read you like a children's book, her interest will fade. Every time. That's why so many relationships start off hot and passionate, but slowly slide into boredom. The man, in his effort to be the perfect boyfriend, makes himself completely predictable. He calls at the same time every night, takes her to the same safe restaurants, reacts the same way to her moods. On the surface, it looks like stability, but underneath, her subconscious is screaming, "I've figured him out." There's nothing left to discover. And when she no longer has to invest mental energy into understanding you, she no longer feels drawn to you. This is why the so-called bad boy stereotype is so magnetic. It's not that women want to be mistreated. What they crave is the unpredictability, the sense of not quite knowing what you'll do next. That uncertainty keeps them engaged. It forces them to keep investing mental energy, which keeps attraction alive. And here's something that will blow your mind. Women aren't testing whether you're competent. They're testing your interest level. Every time she throws out a challenge, cancels plans last minute, or teases you, it's not about the surface level action. It's about seeing whether you'll lose composure, chase harder, or stay centered. That reaction tells her everything about your true value. Most men completely misread these moments. They think a woman's tests are about seeing if he's man enough or if he can handle her attitude. But that's not it at all. She's not checking your toughness. She's checking your interest level. Every time she goes cold, brings up another guy, or acts unimpressed by something you did, she's watching your reaction. She wants to see if you'll scramble to win her back. If you do, if you chase, overcompensate, or try to re-earn her approval, you're basically telling her, "I like you more than you like me." And once she knows that, the power dynamic shifts permanently. Let's break this down with a few common examples. First, the comparison test. She casually mentions how attractive another man is, or brings up an ex-boyfriend. The insecure guy flinches, gets jealous, defensive, maybe even tries to prove he's better. That's failure. The high-value response? Stay unbothered. Maybe even agree with her. That shows you're not competing for her attention because you already operate from abundance. Then there's the availability test. She suggests plans and then cancels at the last minute. The typical guy immediately scrambles, tries to reschedule, shows disappointment, maybe even guilt trips her. That's the failed response. The high-value move? Say, "No problem," and make other plans for yourself. Stay unaffected. Then there's the attitude test. She's cold or gives you attitude. Most men panic, ask what's wrong, try to cheer her up, or over-explain themselves. The correct response: mirror her energy. Stay just as distant until she adjusts her behavior. Maintain your frame without wavering. Here's the key: these aren't conscious manipulations. They're instinctual behaviors. She's assessing your value without even realizing it. And when you consistently pass these tests by staying unbothered, composed, and confident, you're sending one unmistakable signal. You are not desperate for her approval. Because here's the biological truth. When a woman senses that a man's value is lower than her own, her body literally starts to reject him. Attraction isn't about charm or flattery. It's about perceived worth. That's why maintaining frame and passing her tests is not optional if you want lasting desire. This isn't conscious. It's happening deep in her subconscious mind. Her brain starts sending signals that this man isn't genetically strong or valuable enough to reproduce with. That biological assessment shows up in very real ways. A drop in sexual desire, increased irritability around him, and an overall sense that something just feels off in the relationship. This is why so many women in long-term relationships pull back from intimacy. It's not that they don't love their partner. It's that their biology is telling them not to invest in someone they perceive as weak or inferior. Her subconscious reads weakness as a lack of ability to protect, provide, or lead. And for women who are wired to prioritize survival, that makes you a risky bet. When she looks at you and senses this, her attraction diminishes. Here's the thing: understanding this can sting. It can feel harsh or even unfair. But at the same time, it's liberating. Because once you see attraction through the lens of biology and subconscious value assessment, you stop blaming her or yourself and start understanding the real rules of the game. Once you realize that her loss of interest isn't personal, it's biological, you can start making the changes needed to reactivate her attraction. Here's a fascinating psychological phenomenon. When a woman becomes uncertain about your interest, she shifts from covert to overt communication. Let me break that down. Normally, women communicate indirectly. They hint at what they want instead of stating it plainly. She might say, "I'm cold," instead of, "Can you give me your jacket?" Or, "I'm hungry," instead of, "Let's go eat." But when she senses the risk of losing you, that changes. She becomes overt, direct, affectionate, and explicit about her feelings. Suddenly, she's texting things like, "I miss you so much," or "I can't wait to see you tonight." Why does this happen? Her hypergamous instincts are kicking in. She's realizing you might be a higher value man than she first thought, and she wants to secure her position before another woman does. That shift from subtlety to directness is her biology saying, "I need to make sure I don't lose him." When a woman genuinely likes a man, her behavior changes. She'll return texts promptly, call you back, check in on how your day is going, and do little things that clearly show she's invested. This is her overt communication kicking in, her hypergamous instincts making sure she doesn't lose a high-value man. Here's where most dating advice completely misses the mark. They'll tell you to hit the gym, make more money, dress better, or develop new skills. Sure, those things can help, but they don't address the core principle. You can be the most successful, well-dressed, attractive man on the planet, but if your behavior signals low value, she'll still lose interest. I've seen millionaires dumped by women who worked at coffee shops because they didn't understand these psychological dynamics. Meanwhile, I've watched average guys with ordinary jobs keep stunning women completely obsessed because they knew how to maintain the right psychological balance. It's never just about looks, money, or status. It's about how she perceives your value through your actions, behavior, and the frame you hold. External improvements, better clothes, a nicer car, more money, might get you in the door. But what keeps her interested long-term is psychological positioning. Self-improvement alone won't do it. Passing her interest tests will. Your income doesn't matter. Whether you make $50,000 or $500,000 a year is irrelevant. What matters is that every display of overeagerness or neediness chips away at your sexual market value. Showing too much interest reveals what kind of girl you're used to getting and signals lower perceived value. Here's the counterintuitive truth most men never understand. Women often choose men who treat them worse over men who treat them better. It's not because they enjoy mistreatment. It's because selective distance signals higher value. When a man doesn't bend over backward for her, it tells her he has other options. When he doesn't constantly seek her validation, it signals that he's secure in himself. Both of these behaviors are read subconsciously as indicators of high value. This is where most men completely miss the point. Desire is fueled by perceived scarcity and independence, not constant devotion. The nice guy, on the other hand, broadcasts low value in every interaction. He's so eager to please, so accommodating, so terrified of losing her, that his behavior screams, "I'm lucky just to be with you." That's why women often stay with men who treat them poorly. Those men signal value, strength, and independence. And here's the hard truth. Women will often leave men who treat them well. The more thoughtful dates you plan, the more vacations you suggest, the more calls and texts you send, the more she thinks, "He really likes me. How nice, but I don't feel it." Women don't fall in love with men. They fall in love with how a man makes them feel about themselves. When you make her feel like the prize, when you act like being with her is a favor to you, she feels powerful, but she's not attracted. Desire doesn't come from comfort, devotion, or admiration. It comes from perceived value, challenge, and the sense that she has to earn your attention. But when you make her feel like she has to earn your affection, like she's lucky to have your attention, everything changes. She feels challenged, intrigued, and excited. That emotional state is the fuel for deep, obsessive attraction, the kind that can grow into genuine love. Women are guided by their emotions. If her feelings signal, "This man is high value, I like him," she will reach out, text you, invest in you. If her feelings signal, "He's low value, I don't like him anymore," she pulls back. Her behavior always mirrors her internal emotional state. The trick is creating a delicate balance. She should feel like she's reaching upward to earn your attention, but never like it's out of reach. Challenge paired with hope, that's what keeps her mentally and emotionally invested. The single most magnetic quality a man can have is genuine abundance. The sense that he has options and doesn't need any one woman to feel complete. This isn't about actually dating multiple women. It's about the mindset, being free from neediness and desperation. That mental state alone broadcasts value more powerfully than money, looks, or status ever could. When you operate from abundance, everything changes naturally. You don't chase. You don't overinvest. You don't sacrifice your dignity just to get her attention. You treat her well because you want to, not because you're afraid of losing her. This mindset is incredibly attractive because it's rare. Most men live in scarcity. They're so desperate for female attention that they'll bend over backwards just to keep it. The abundant man, on the other hand, is selective. He decides who deserves his time and energy. By containing your interest, you automatically take on the aura of the bad boy or the player without even trying. Skipping a reply to 1 or 2 texts. Attractive, not running yourself ragged to impress her. Attractive, you don't need wild adventures or extreme measures. Subtle tweaks in your behavior, maintaining your frame, demonstrating independence, giving her just enough attention to keep her intrigued, position you as a high-value man. That's the power of abundance in action. Women are biologically wired to be attracted to men who can lead, make decisions, and take responsibility. When you constantly seek her approval or defer every decision to her, you fail to fulfill this basic masculine role. Masculine leadership isn't about being controlling or domineering. It's about being decisive, confident, and willing to take charge when the situation calls for it. It's having a vision for your life and inviting her to join you, rather than centering your entire existence around her preferences. For example, instead of asking, "What do you want to do tonight?" try, "We're going to try that new Italian place downtown." Instead of, "Is this okay with you?" say, "This is what we're doing." You're not being demanding, you're being decisive. That decisiveness communicates value, stability, and confidence, all traits that are biologically attractive to women. When you take charge and make decisions with confidence, you give her a gift, the ability to relax and trust your judgment. This is what true masculine leadership looks like. In any relationship, the person who invests more emotional energy holds less power. Investment can show up in many ways. Who initiates contact more often, who makes more effort to see the other person, who compromises more, or who shows greater emotional vulnerability. The one who consistently invests more will eventually see attraction fade from the other person. This isn't a call to withhold care or stop investing entirely. It's about being strategic, choosing when and how to invest your energy in ways that maintain attraction and reinforce your value. Understanding this law of human psychology is key to sustaining desire and respect in any relationship. Let her invest in you first, then match her level of effort. Don't be the one always reaching out, always planning, always compromising. When investment is balanced, both people feel valued and respected. When it's imbalanced, the person putting in more energy gradually loses respect for themselves and for you. Frame control is one of the most important skills for maintaining attraction. Your frame is your perspective on reality, how you see yourself, the relationship, and the world around you. Women constantly test your frame to see if you'll abandon your perspective just to please them. The man with strong frame control doesn't argue or beg. He maintains his perspective with quiet confidence, signaling that he knows his own value. By holding your frame consistently, you show that you're a strong, self-assured man who can lead without needing approval. That perception alone fuels attraction more than anything else you can do. This isn't about being stubborn or inflexible. It's about having a clear sense of who you are, what you stand for, and refusing to compromise that just to win her approval. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Love and attraction operate on completely different principles. Love is about care, compatibility, and commitment. Attraction is about challenge, uncertainty, and the feeling that she's reaching upward. Most men focus only on love. They're caring, supportive, and committed. But without attraction, love alone doesn't create desire. She might care about you, but she won't feel passionate. She might stay out of obligation, but she won't be captivated by you. The men who build lasting, passionate relationships understand how to maintain both. They're caring and supportive, but also challenging and unpredictable. They're committed, yet never needy. They balance love with attraction, creating the kind of connection women truly crave. Remember, this isn't about being cruel or manipulative. It's about understanding the psychological mechanisms that drive female attraction and working with them instead of against them. The choice is yours. You can keep playing the nice guy role and wonder why women lose interest, or you can embrace these uncomfortable truths and start creating passionate, devoted relationships. Stop trying to win her over and start being the kind of man she feels lucky to have one. The difference will transform not just your dating life, but your entire relationship with women. This is female attraction in its purest form. Understand it, use it wisely, and watch how everything changes. If you found this video insightful, make sure to support the channel and subscribe to Stoic 24 for more psychology-based relationship strategies.